ये फैन बंद करना पड़ेगा. So class, welcome to the lecture number 37 of the course Basic Electrical Engineering. So in this lecture I will discuss something about the construction and working of three-phase induction motor. Okay, so construction and working of a three-phase induction motor. First I will take the construction part. Construction. So like every rotating machine, an induction motor, it also has a stator over which stator winding, three-phase stator winding is placed, which is energized by a three-phase supply. Okay, so because of the three-phase supply, rotating magnetic field is produced in the stator winding. So the second part is the rotor. So rotor, as the name says, rotor means rotating part. Okay, so in case of a motor, it is the rotor where energy conversion takes place. Means it is here where electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. So depending upon the type of rotor, we may have two classifications depending upon the construction or type of rotor. The first is squirrel cage induction motor, and the second is slip ring induction motor. So both have some advantages as well as disadvantages. So if it is a squirrel cage induction motor, the rotor is rushed in construction. It is almost indestructible. Okay. So however, in case of a slip ring induction motor, it has an advantage that we can control the starting current or starting torque by inserting the external resistance. In the circuit, by which we can control the starting current or starting torque. However, it is not possible. Addition of external resistance is not possible. In squirrel cage induction motor. So in the construction, I told you any motor or this rotating part, we have two types of machines. One is rotating, both are rotating, but one is generator and other is motor. In motors we have further classification, DC motor and AC. So in AC we have three-phase induction motor. So we are saying it is the rotor. Okay, we are saying in case of motor, okay, it converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. Okay, and what does a generator does? It does opposite to that. It converts mechanical energy into electrical energy. Okay, so this conversion, that is conversion of electrical energy into mechanical energy, or conversion of electrical power into mechanical power, electrical power into mechanical power. Where does it take place? It takes place in the rotating part. It takes place in the rotating part of motor. Okay, so I'm saying, firstly, this what we are doing in case of an electrical motor, we are energizing the stator with this three-phase supply, and because of the electromechanical phenomena, this electrical power is converted into mechanical power in the rotor circuit. Okay, so I am saying that the rotor of an induction machine, from where it does get power, it gets a power. So this rotor of induction machine, it gets power by electromagnetic induction. Okay, here I will say rotor of electric machine, it will get power from or by which phenomena? Electromagnetic induction. Okay, so we are energizing the stator. Okay, and because of this stator, some power is transferring to the rotor by electromagnetic induction phenomena, where this electrical power is getting converted into mechanical power. So I am talking the rotor gets electrical power by electromagnetic induction. So you have seen this transformer. Now I have taught you transformer. How does the secondary of the transformer gets power? We are energizing the primary by a supply, and that primary is connected to the core of the transformer, which provides low reluctance paths for the flux. Now that flux which is generated in the primary, it travels through the core and cuts the secondary. So this way the secondary in the transformer, it will get power. Okay, that is by electromagnetic induction. Similarly, the rotor of the electrical machine, it will get power by electromagnetic induction, exactly in the same manner as the secondary of the transformer. Okay, so that is why this electromagnetic induction machine, it is also called as the rotating transformer, where the primary of the transformer is stationary, that is stator, and the secondary of the transformer, it is rotating, that is rotor. Okay, so I am saying this rotor of the induction machine, it gets power by electromagnetic induction. Okay, it gets power by electromagnetic induction, which is same as in case of the transformer, because in case of a transformer, the secondary gets power by electromagnetic induction. So in case of this induction machine, I am saying the rotor acts as the secondary and the stator acts as the primary. So I am saying that it is we can say that this induction machine, it is equivalent to the transformer. Okay, it is equivalent to the transformer, where primary is the rotor and primary is the stator and secondary is the rotor. Okay, so I can say that induction machines are also called as rotating transformer. Why rotating transformers? Because the secondary will rotate. Okay, where primary is fixed or stationary. What is the primary? It is stator. And secondary is rotating, which is the rotor. Okay, let me adjust the camera once again. Okay, so because of this it is also called as the induction machine is also called as the rotating transformer, because of this phenomena. So now I told you that this induction machine, it has two components, stator and rotor. First I will discuss about the stator. I will write some points about stator. Okay, so look, this stator of a three-phase induction machine, it is mostly star connected. Okay, always star connected. When this star connected three-phase winding is energized by a three-phase supply, a rotating magnetic field is produced. Okay, though the magnitude of this rotating magnetic field is constant, but the direction will keep on changing at every instant, which I showed you in the previous lecture as well, where I was showing that the direction of the magnetic field, it will change at 0 degree and 120 degree, 150, 180 degree. I think I took 3 or 4 cases. Okay, so I am saying and this stator, it is made up of stampings, okay, which are joined together, and this stator, it has slot on its inner periphery. Okay, it has slot on its inner periphery where stator winding is placed. Now, depending upon how many turns, how many poles you need in a stator winding, depending upon that, you will select the number of you will select the stator winding. Okay, turns, number of turns of stator winding. So I will write it down, these features one by one. So stator of a 3-phase induction machine is made of stampings which have slots on its inner periphery. What do you mean by inner periphery, outer periphery? Suppose I am saying this is my stator. Okay, so this is the outer periphery, this is outer periphery, and this is inner periphery. So inner periphery, we have the slots like this. So these are the slots, this is slot, this is slot, slot. So in these slots we are placing the stator winding. So this is the slots are placed on the inner periphery of the stator winding. So on its inner periphery to receive the stator winding. So in these slots the stator windings are placed. Now these stator winding is wound for a definite number of poles. So if you will see, I have shown it here. How many slots are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically it cannot be odd. It should be always even. So I will say I will add one more somewhere. I will add one more here. Okay, 6. Okay. So on this, these are called as the poles. Okay, these are called as the poles. So I am saying the stator winding is wound for a definite number of poles, depending upon the speed. Okay, so basically this we have a formula for this speed of the synchronous induction machine, which is given by ns. Ns is called as a synchronous speed, which is given by 120 f by p, where f is the frequency, supply frequency, which is can be 50 or 60 hertz. P is the number of poles. So what we are doing, we are saying we will select the stator winding in so that we will have some number of poles. According to that number of poles, we should have the required speed. So what is the speed requirement? According to the speed requirement, we can change the number of poles by changing the stator winding. Okay, so by changing the stator winding, the number of poles can be altered, and this way we can control the speed. Okay, so but there is a problem. Once we have manufactured the machine, once the machine has been manufactured, we cannot change the number of poles. Okay, so number of poles, it cannot be changed. So you have to take this thing into consideration before fabricating the machine. Okay, once the machine has been fabricated, it is not possible to change the number of poles. Okay, so tell me, if the number of poles are higher, what will happen to the speed? If the number of poles are higher, the speed will decrease. If the number of poles are more, comma, speed will be less. Okay, So I am saying now when a three-phase stator winding, it is energized by a three-phase sinusoidal source, a magnetic flux which is constant in magnitude, but constant in magnitude, but changing, but rotating in nature. Rotating in nature means at every instant it is changing its direction. Okay, so I am saying when stator when stator windings are energized by a three-phase sinusoidal source, a magnetic field which is constant in magnitude but rotating in nature is produced. Okay, so this I have shown you in the previous lecture, how this rotating field is produced and why the magnitude of the field is constant. So this magnitude is given by we derived it yesterday, 1.55 m. Okay, and what is the speed of rotation? Which we are saying it is constant in magnitude but rotating in nature is produced. So that speed it is given by here, ns is equal to 120 f by p. So I am saying speed of rotation is ns, which is equal to 120 f by p. Okay, so this stator, so what I told you about the stator, I told you that stator, it is made of stampings which has slots on its inner periphery to carry the stator windings. Now I am saying depending upon the speed, we select the number of poles by selecting the stator winding. Okay, the third point was that if the speed is poles are high, the speed will be less. Next, I told you that the magnitude of the rotating magnetic field, it is always constant, which is 1.5, and the speed of rotation of this magnetic field, it is given by ns is equal to 120 f by p. So this is all about stator. Now let us discuss about the rotating part, rotor. So depending upon the type of rotor construction, we have two types of induction machines. So I will say depending upon the type of rotor, we have two classification of induction machines. Induction machines are classified as two types. What is the first? Is squirrel cage induction machine, and the second is slip ring induction machine. Second is slip ring induction machine. Slip ring induction machine, it is also known as phase wound induction machine. Slip ring induction machine, it is also known as phase wound induction machine. So I will first discuss the squirrel cage induction machine. So the first is page number 3, squirrel cage induction machine. So squirrel cage, as the name suggests, squirrel cage. First is cage. Cage, what do you mean by cage? It is a pinjara, and squirrel is gallery. Okay, so this machine, it has a rotor which has the shape of a squirrel cage. Okay, and almost more than 80 or 85% of the induction machines, they have this squirrel cage induction motor type rotor. Okay, so this squirrel cage means it appears like squirrel cage structure. Okay, it appears like squirrel cage structure. So, and more than 85% of the induction machines, they are squirrel cage induction machine type. Okay, so they have an advantage, they are simple to construct. Okay, simple to construct, rushed. So rushed means, if they are rushed, means they are indestructible. rugged and almost indestructible. Okay, so in case of a squirrel cage induction machine, we don't have windings on the rotor circuit. Okay, on the rotor circuit we don't have the windings. Instead of winding we have copper bars. So we are not using windings, means we are not using a wire of many turns, okay, or stable number of turns. Instead of that we are using a single copper bar, and that bar, it can be made of copper, it can be made of aluminum, and it can be made of this any other alloy. Okay, so if I will show you the diagrammatically, I will try to show you. Okay, here you can see the structure looks like this. I have drawn a bigger structure here. So if you can see, I have used 4 slots, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and these slots, in these slots I am placing what? A copper bar. How many copper bars I am using? This is 1 copper bar, second, third, and fourth. We are not using conductor here, we are using a bar, a copper bar, and these are called as the end rings. Okay, end rings. And these end rings, they are here short circuited. It is short circuited on this end and short circuited on this end as well. Okay, so both the end rings are short circuited. Okay, and the bars are placed in the slot, so it will give it an appearance of a squirrel cage like structure. That is why we are calling it as a squirrel cage induction machine. So let me write these things here. So I am saying it is to be noted that the rotor conductors, I'll write here bars. Rotor conductors, they are not windings but bars of copper, aluminum, or any other alloy. Okay, now each copper bar is placed, okay, in one slot. Here I have 4 slots, first slot, so 4 slots, so 4 copper bars I am using. So each bar is placed in one slot. Okay, one slot of rotor. Now the bars are braced. So bars are braced. How we are saying how these bars are inserted in this rotor circuit. Sorry, I had to pause this video because of some sound was there. Okay, so I was saying that in each slot a rotor bar is placed, means one bar is placed in one slot. Okay, one bar is placed in one slot. Okay, no, so these bars, I am saying that how these bars are placed in this slot. So what we are doing, we are putting the bar from one end and we are pushing it into the slot. Okay, so this way we are placing the this bar into the slot. Now these bars which are placed here, these bars are electrically braced or electrically welded to two heavy end rings. So the bar is placed here and it is pushed into the slot unless it reaches the another end rings. So what are we doing at this point and this point? We are welding this bar here. Same is the case with other bars as well. So all the bars are electrically welded to the two heavy end rings. So this will give it a robust mechanical shape. Okay, robust mechanical shape, this welding. Okay, so to two heavy end rings which are short circuited. Okay, so these two heavy end rings, they are also short circuited. Okay, and this construction will give the rotor a squirrel cage like look. Okay, like look or appearance. Got it? Now one more point which is important here. We are saying as the rotor bars, they are braced and electrically welded to the two end rings, and these end rings are electrically short circuited. Okay, so this end is short circuited and this end is short circuited, and the bars are electrically welded. So it is not possible with this type of construction. It will not allow to add any external resistance in the circuit for starting purpose, means for controlling the starting torque or starting current. Okay, so I am saying as the bars are short circuited, thus it is not possible to add any external resistance in the circuit. It is not possible to add any external resistance in the circuit for controlling the starting torque and starting current. So one more point I would like to mention here. Suppose that we have a stator slot and we have a rotor slot. Okay, so these stator slots, they are placed in stator teeths. Okay, so what happens, there is a magnetic attraction between the stator teeth and the rotor slot. Okay, so this magnetic attraction, what it can do, it can prevent the rotation of the rotor. Okay, it will not allow the rotor to rotate, or it may reduce the speed of the rotor. Okay, so to avoid that, and that phenomena means when the rotor slots are attracted towards the stator teeth, that phenomena is called as magnetic locking. Means the rotor gets locked, it is not rotating. Means if something is not rotating, it should rotate, but it is not rotating. What we say that it is locked. Okay, and why is it locked? It is locked because of the magnetic attraction between the rotor slot and the stator teeth or stator pole. So that is why this phenomena is called as magnetic locking. So to avoid magnetic locking, what we are doing, to avoid magnetic locking, instead of using rotor bars parallel to shaft, instead of using rotor bar parallel to shaft, comma, the bars or rotor slots are slightly skewed. So what do you mean by skewing? Skewing means I will show you how I can show you diagrammatically what is skewing. So I am saying this is my shaft. Okay, so I will take the case of 1, 2, 3, 4 rotors here. Suppose this is the shape of my rotor. This is shaft. Okay, this is a shaft axis I am drawing here. Now instead of using the slots that are parallel to the shaft, what we are doing, we are slightly skewing the slots. Means it is going in this direction, slots. You can see it is not parallel to this, but it is slightly skewed. Okay. One slot I will draw here. Better to draw it here. So you can see the slots are not parallel to the shaft axis, but they are slightly skewed. Why are we skewing? Because if the whole slot is parallel to the shaft, the whole slot will experience the magnetic attraction at the same time. Okay, but when this skewing is done, firstly the one portion of the this rotor slot, it will experience the magnetic attraction, while the other portion, it will not experience the magnetic attraction. So till after some time, this rotor rotates. Because of that rotation, now the part that was earlier experiencing the magnetic attraction, now it will be free from this magnetic attraction, and the part that was not earlier experiencing the magnetic attraction, it will now experience the magnetic attraction. So this skewing is done, or slightly skewed, to avoid magnetic locking. Magnetic locking, it is also called as cogging. Okay, it is also called as cogging. And this magnetic locking, because of this will make the rotor to run quickly by reducing the magnetic locking. Okay, because of the skewing, if the slots are skewed, so magnetic locking will be reduced. Because of that, the rotor will rotate quickly. Okay. So next is the phase wound rotor or slip ring rotor. Second, phase wound rotor or slip ring induction motor. Okay, phase wound rotor or slip ring induction. So next is phase wound rotor. So in case of a phase wound rotor, the rotor has as many poles as the number of poles which are on stator. Rotor has as many poles as the number of stator poles. Let me draw the schematic diagram of this three-phase induction motor with phase wound rotor. So we have a rotor which is which is a rotor which is star connected. Okay, now in this so this is my shaft. I am saying this is my shaft. So this is my phase R, this is my phase Y, and this is phase B. So this is the shaft. So what is happening in phase wound rotor? Okay, what we in this case we have first we have a three-phase rotor winding. Okay, the first one terminal of the three-phase rotor winding, they are short circuited. Okay, here this and this, and the second terminals of the rotor winding, they are connected to the three slip rings. Okay, I am saying it is connected to three slip rings. The rotor winding has two terminals. One terminal is short circuited, and the second terminal it is connected to three slip rings. So this is my first slip ring, this is my second slip ring, and this is my third slip ring. Okay, and these slip rings, what is happening to these slip rings? Where are they resting? They are resting on three carbon brushes. This is the first slip ring, this is the second slip ring, and this is the third slip ring. So this is slip ring 1, 2, 3. I'm saying this is phase, and these are three carbon brushes. 1, 2, 3, three carbon brushes. Now three carbon brushes, they are connected to a three-phase star connected rheostat. Three carbon brushes, they are connected to three-phase star connected rheostat. Okay, so this is a 3-phase rheostat, and you can see this, we can vary the resistance of this rheostat. So this is the external resistance that is connected to the rotor circuit. By controlling the rheostatic resistance, varying the rheostatic resistance, we can vary the rotor current. Okay, so this whole assembly, it should be in an enclosure which is called as the rotor enclosure. So this is my rotor enclosure, rotor frame or enclosure. So this is my star connected rotor winding. These are my carbon brushes, 3 carbon brushes. Sorry, these are not carbon brushes, these are slip rings. Slip rings, these are carbon brushes. 1, 2, 3, these are carbon brushes. Okay, so this is my phase R, and this is my phase Y, this is B. So this is the schematic diagram of a phase wound rotor, three-phase induction motor with a phase wound rotor. So we have a star connected rotor winding. Okay, and these rotor windings, they are externally connected to the to rheostatic resistances with the help of carbon brushes and slip rings. Okay, and then we have a shaft here. Okay, and we also have a metallic collar which is connected to parallel to the shaft axis. Okay, so how this thing will work? Page number 4, page number 5. So we are seeing the three terminals of star connected rotor winding are connected to 3 slip rings, and slip rings, next sentence, better to start a next sentence. Slip rings rests on carbon brushes okay, slip rings rest on carbon brushes which are connected to 3-phase rheostat. Now what we will do, where is the page diagram? What we will do, at the starting the current is very high. Okay, so this high current, it may damage the our rotor or machine. So in order to limit the starting current, we are using the external resistance here. Okay, here is the external resistance. So what we are doing, initially we are keeping the external resistance high so that the starting current is very low. So when the starting current, when the motor gains speed, we keep on reducing the rheostat, this resistance, external resistance. A stage comes when the machine rotates at its normal speed. At that time, what we do, we use a metallic collar, and that metallic collar, which is used in parallel with the shaft axis, it short circuits the slip rings. These 3 slip rings will be short circuited by that metallic collar. Okay. So once the 3 slip rings get short circuited, so what will happen to this external resistance? This external resistance, it will be taken out of the circuit electrically. Okay, so how to write it? I will write by adjusting the rheostatic resistance comma, we can control the starting current. Okay, so once the machine runs at its normal speed, means under normal condition, what is happening, these slip rings are automatically getting short circuited with the help of a metallic collar, and this metallic collar, it is pushed along the shaft, and connects all the slip rings together. So what I am saying under normal condition, what is happening? Slip rings are automatically short circuited by means of a metal collar, which is pushed along the shaft and connects all the slip rings together. Connects all the slip rings together means it will short circuit these slip rings. A metallic collar is used, which is pushed into this, which is pushed along the shaft, and what it does, it short circuits these. It short circuits the slip rings. So once the slip rings get short circuited, this external resistance, it will be taken automatically taken out of the circuit. Okay, electrically. So this is all about the construction of this three-phase induction machine. So next is the working. So working, let me see how long is this working component. Okay, it is a small component, not a big problem. So working. So you know, when a three-phase star connected stator winding is energized by a three-phase sinusoidal balanced supply, what is happening? A rotating MMF or rotating magnetic field is produced, which is constant in magnitude and rotating in nature is produced. So the magnitude of the flux or magnetic field, it is given by 5 by 1.5 phi m, and the speed of the rotating magnetic field is given by 120 F by P. Okay. So what is happening? Wait. Okay. So I am saying a rotating magnetic field is produced in the stator winding. So tell me, when when the rotor is stationary. Okay, I am saying this is my rotor. I have a conductor on rotor and the field is moving in this direction. Okay, this is my field. So I am saying when the rotor is stationary, okay, and the stator field is rotating. Okay, so there exists a relative motion between the rotating magnetic field. This is the rotating magnetic field, and this is the conductor on stator, which is stationary. So there exists a relative motion between the rotating magnetic field and the conductor, stationary conductor on the rotor. Okay, so I am saying this rotating magnetic, the flux that is produced by the rotating magnetic field. So what happens if this field is moving, rotating? So this flux, it cuts the rotor conductor, stationary rotor conductor. Okay, when this field passes over this conductor. Okay, this conductor is stationary, the field is moving. So there is a relative motion between the field and the conductor, stator field and the rotor conductor. So I am saying this field flux, which is rotating, it will cut the rotor conductor. Okay, as this field passes over this conductor, right? Let's write it. So when rotor is stationary and stator flux of rotating magnetic field, magnetic field is rotating. With the rotating magnetic field, obviously the flux will rotate. Okay, so what will happen when conductor is stationary and field is rotating? field is rotating means stator flux is also rotating. So there exists a relative motion between rotor conductor and rotating magnetic field So I am saying the flux, this flux, rotating flux, it is constant in magnitude. Okay, but it is rotating. Because of that rotation, there will be relative motion between the conductor and flux. Now this, when the conductor, this field passes over this stationary conductor, what will happen? This flux will cut the rotor conductor. Okay, between the conductor and the rotating magnetic field. So I am saying the rotating magnetic flux, okay, field is rotating, so flux is also rotating. Rotating magnetic flux cuts the rotor conductors when rotating magnetic field passes over the rotor conductor, right? I will again show here. This is my rotor conductor, this is my rotor, this is rotor conductor, and this is field. So this is my rotating magnetic field. Rotating magnetic field will produce a flux which is also rotating. So I will call it as a rotating magnetic flux. So when rotating magnetic flux, it will pass over the conductor, stationary conductor. So the rotating magnetic flux, it will cut the rotor conductor. Okay, so we also know whenever a conductor cuts the flux, rotating flux or changing flux, so it is rotating, obviously it will be changing, because as it will pass, the value of the flux will change. Okay, flux linked with the conductor will change. Flux will remain constant 1.5 m, but the value of the flux that will cut the conductor, it will change. Okay, so I am saying whenever a conductor cuts the flux, EMF gets induced in that conductor. Okay, and as the rotor is short circuited, we know that a squirrel cage or this slip ring, we are talking about a squirrel cage, I will say. So we know that the rotor conductors, they are short circuited. Okay,